Welcome to Midlife Matters. I'm Marie, and each week I'm joined by my friends Julie and Mindy to talk about all the topics keeping women in the middle years up at night. Today we're talking about intentional rest. Join us as we discuss how to slow down and recharge in healthy ways while still getting our to-do list done. Let's get started. Listeners, today we're talking about intentional rest. How do we slow down and recharge in healthy ways while still getting our to-do list done? This week, Mindy and Julie and I, we were talking about how busy spring can be. There's such a long list of things to do. There's spring break, Easter, Mother's Day, end of school year, graduations, birthdays, and those are just the celebrations. And then there is the spring cleaning, the cleaning up the yard and the gardens and planting new plants and flowers and refreshing our outdoor spaces. There's switching out our wardrobes. There's thinking about different things to eat in the spring versus the winter. I mean, there's just so much. Have you guys felt like the spring to-do list is longer than we normally think about?
I definitely do. There was something magical about the time change happening, the warm weather coming, the flowers coming to bloom, grass starting to turn green. But yet at the same time, it's like coming out of that winter's rest kind of, quieter season, like all the stimuli has hit and it's awesome at first. And then all of a sudden, like I realized, I feel behind. I got to plan, there's a lot of it at school with Nathaniel, like summer's coming. I was missing Jacob. And then he's like, I'm done May 1st. I'm like, why so soon? It's like that, you're going between the two. And then I feel like I've got to have a plan for the rest of the year.
Right. Yeah. I love January and February. I know a lot of people don't consider those their favorite months, but they might be my favorite months because there's no expectation of productivity. Like in January, you're allowed to just recover from the holidays. And in February, it's such a short month. I mean, who can really get anything done? And there's usually like one or two times of a snow in those months where it's like in Tennessee, at least, it's guaranteed intentional rest because you can't drive anywhere. So you have to stay home. I don't know, the weather, the days are shorter. So there's also more of a rest time naturally built in. So I really do feel like that. I never put the time change with it, Mindy, but I guess spring breaks were kind of cueing me that things are changing. But you're right. The time change is definitely an obvious trigger for our brains. Julie, how do you feel about your spring to-do list?
I'm just laughing because I'm in such a totally different place than both of you. Like that's where my life is. Yeah. So I'm learning, and I just thought about back to childhood. When my mom said it was time for a nap, I went kicking and screaming. I would say, I am not tired. Don't make me stay in this bedroom, And I'm still that way. I do not like to rest. And so I'm not that busy, and I wish I was. And there are things that still get me stressed out, like home repairs, taxes had me stressed out. Marie knows that because I was talking to her the other day. Trying to make some travel plans, cleaning up my yard, trying to figure out what to plant. But it's not too much. So I do better when I have things to do. So I'm in a little bit different spot. But
okay. And I'm sure that's the case with listeners. Not every listener. Some people are probably raring to go in the spring, or they're having, trouble filling their time. I don't know. But I definitely think that if it's not springtime, then there's probably other times in your life where you need to seek out intentional rest in a healthy way. And that's what today's topic is.
If I could kind of say this at the beginning, because one thing that I was kind of meditating on, I was like, it's not so much that every day I have so many activities. Why do I feel a little more rushed or, when stress kind of hits? Not to get too mental on us, but I realize that there's three parts of our bodies that need to connect to do things well. We have our minds, what we think about it. We have our hearts, how do we feel about it? And then we have the actual physical doing of the activity. So it almost doesn't matter how much or how little is in your day. It's how you think about it, how you feel about it, and then what it's going to require of your body to do it. So if we can somehow carry the three together, I noticed that is where I do better with each activity I do have.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I appreciate you saying that, because while I am not physically busy, my mind is, in a whir.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, and so I think rest for me has a little bit different meaning. It's more of a spiritual rest, emotional. Like, I like my
Mhm.
body to be physically busy, but there can be a lot going on inside that I need to rest from.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. It's not always a physical rest. People don't have to be physically busy to feel tired.
Right.
Yeah.
There's an emotional tiredness, a mental tiredness.
Mm-hmm.
And
For
it's
sure.
a lot worse. It's a
It
lot
is.
worse.
It is.
Like you said, you can take a nap or get a better night's sleep to help relieve physical tiredness, but mental tiredness is not as easy to relieve.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Even reading the Psalms, I was comforted. Like David said in one of his Psalms, he said, "Give me peace from my own mind." And I thought, okay, that hit hard. I was like, yes, because even if my body's at rest, your mind is still there. And how you feel
Yep.
about it's still there. So,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So we have all these reasons for stress and they build, and yet we still have to get things done. We can't just cross all of it off the list and ignore it, even though some days we might want to bury our head under the blankets and try to do that. And we can also definitely allow some of this stuff to be stealing our joy. So we're going to talk about some joy stealers. We're going to talk about some possible remedies or boundaries to put into place. We're talking about changing or adjusting our activity with things that promote healing and vitality. So, Mindy, I know that this was a topic that was generated by you. And so when you say that we're changing or adjusting our activity, what do you mean?
okay, so you just said it. We can't get rid of the activities that are happening. But I think when we were trying to come up with a topic, I was starting to notice some things about myself that as, my activities were increasing, I noticed that I had the same amount of time. I still had to eat meals. I still had to go teach classes at the gym. I had work to do. I knew that I had choices in those activities. Like I really could come at those days in a healthy way, or I could come at them with reluctance, with procrastination. And so it kind of got me thinking about how can I be, I'll say, like my best self, putting my best self forward into each of those activities.
Mm-hmm.
So I came up with some categories because I realized there were certain categories to kind of compartmentalize, and break it down for each of us to talk about. So we can talk about, things that we do. And then I know we're going to talk about pitfalls that we could fall into. So we can actually combine those within a category or separate
Oh, pitfalls is a whole category.
what we do. It's up to you guys. It is. Believe I had a long list.
Yeah, that's where the bulk of my stuff is.
Okay, well then,
It was
listeners,
not
you
hard
want
for
to
me to
keep
make that
you
list.
want to keep listening to hear all of our pitfalls.
It's coming.
All right. Well, let's talk about our categories. Ways that we can adjust or tweak things to help our minds and bodies to do our tasks and feel good about it. So you started right with a bang, Mindy. Probably going to hit a lot of people right where we don't want to be hit with our entertainment. How can we adjust our free time and entertainment options to experience rest or rejuvenation? And so, isn't entertaining by its very definition giving us rest and rejuvenation?
I think that entertainment, there's a lot of pitfalls there. And so choosing better entertainment, something that does bring you joy, that does bring you rest, that, maybe makes you laugh, or maybe your entertainment needs to be quiet. Maybe you have enough entertainment with in life that you need to actually just shut down the stimuli and do something else. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why I kind of started off with entertainment, because we have a lot of choices in this category.
Yeah. When I think about entertainment, I want to get lost in my entertainment. Like if my book is the entertainment, I want the book to be so interesting that I forget about my real life. Or if the TV show, I want it to be so interesting that I'm not thinking about my real life. Now, I don't know if that is restful or if that is just escapism. What would you say?
How do you feel when you're done?
Well, I guess that would be a good way to know.
I think it all just depends where you are, like it's different. I think it's different at different times. Like for me, busyness, I'm not that busy anymore, but I I feel like I'm kind of stuck waiting on figuring out what I'm supposed to do. But I can remember back, like when schedules were packed, seems like every minute was full, or at least you thought about things all the time
Mm-hmm.
to do. There was just less intentional time for like spiritual disciplines that deepen our connection with God. So you just kind of focus more on external things instead of that inner self, that inner work. And so you have to prioritize that. Kind of that whole analogy of like putting the big rocks in the jar before the little ones go in. Like if you put the little ones in first, the big ones are never going to fit. And
Right.
so that's kind of where I am. Like entertainment for me right now, I have lots of free time, and I have found that TV and even social media don't feel very restful to me. They kind of stir things up, and I don't come away. I feel worse. So I've kind of cut back on TV. I mean, not that I watched a lot, but I'm trying to listen to books more. Like I've started listening to books at bedtime, and I love that. It's just very relaxing. Way less news. Can't do that. I went to a concert last Sunday night. A friend, invited me, and that was really fun. Some women at my church started a card group for me to kind of build community. So for me, entertainment needs to involve someone else. It's not escapism right now for me,
Right. So like entertainment experienced by yourself is not restful and rejuvenating for you right now.
Not for me right now, no. But I can see if you're around a lot of people and you need to be by yourself, then it would be,
Yeah. I never thought about that. Yeah. Because I do feel like, well, also because I am an introvert, I recharge alone. So sometimes I need my entertainment to be alone too. I mean, I like to experience entertainment with other people, but I also don't mind being entertained on my own.
Yeah. And I think like I have a friend right now who's away camping for like 3 weeks by herself, and she cannot understand why I don't like to be by myself. She just thrives on it, and I think I would be so miserable if I were doing what she's doing, like I would just be in a very depressed state if I was alone somewhere camping by myself. So it really is what you need to recharge.
I think I have to set boundaries for myself if I know that I'm going into something and I'm looking for it to be fun. Like it's not a to-do list. It's something I get to choose, like to have fun. Then depending on what it is, I need to almost give it its own boundaries and space, or maybe I need to set a time for it so that I can jump in with both feet, really enjoy it, and then know that, compartmentalize again. I know I'm going to get to some things later. And so depending on where I'm putting the entertainment, I have to kind of give it some healthy boundaries. So I limit
So you're
myself
not binge
to
watching.
not procrastinate. Yeah.
I get that. Yeah. Just like I need an hour of this and then I'll be back I'll be refreshed.
Yes. Of entertainment for me that includes a lot of categories. And Marie, I've heard you say this before too, but being able to eat a meal in silence is like one of my favorite things.
That's entertainment.
It's entertaining. One other way that I find entertainment amongst the busy is I'm turning off my music in the car, no noise, and I might open, the sunroof or a window thing if the pollen's not too bad, and I might take the long way home. So I'm still going between activities, or I'm still going somewhere, but I'm going to take a different street or, something like that.
Me too.
And that actually really helps. Oh yeah, Julie. Yeah, we both love to drive around.
Yeah, I like to find a back road I've never been on, and it's so pretty here, and I do that. And on my way to thrift.
Hey, that
I find
fun.
I find that very entertaining. Even if I don't come home with anything, it was just kind of relaxing for me to do that. Yeah.
I mean, in all reality, you might be adding just 2 to 5 minutes to your drive, but it's so worth it.
All right, well, let's talk about food. So what are some of the ways that you adjust your food in times of needing rest?
Yeah, I do think preparing for rest is a good idea. Like when I do my meal planning on the weekend and have it ready to go, it's such a more relaxing week. But when like this week, I'm just thinking of every day, what is it going to be? And that is not restful. And, I'm still trying to eat clean. And this isn't something I struggle with anymore, but used to, I would tend to fall into like eating more junk food or bad because that was the easier, convenient thing. So, and that can seem useful and fun until you feel the effects,
Right.
And so it's just always better for me to have a plan.
Yeah. This is the category that got me thinking about this whole topic because I think in times of busy, like you naturally want to seek comfort, and we all have heard about comfort foods. Okay. And so the thing is as soon as you start eating those comfort foods, then you feel the effects of those comfort foods and you end up with brain fog. You don't sleep as well. You don't feel as good. Your workout the next day is not as good. And this is a joy stealer for me. And so I have learned that even if it'll be a lot faster for me to go through a drive-through, I have a lot more joy with food and I feel better if I come home and maybe in the quiet again, or maybe I put on worship music if I need that. If I'm making good food at home, my body's getting exactly what it needs. And I'm giving it the fuel that it needs to do everything else.
I've noticed that myself just since I've been eating better. I prefer to come home and eat, whereas I used to think, I'll just write my Chick-fil-A or I'm just here, and I even took a road trip to see a friend and I hated that I had to stop and eat at all these places, like that I could just eat what I eat every day.
Right.
Yeah, I do think that if you can even have in your mind like 2 or 3 go-to meals that are healthy and easy and don't require a lot of time, but that you always have the raw ingredients for, that can kind of take the pressure off and make you less likely to go through the drive-through because you do have this other thing at home.
It's true. Having a plan here is really important. Spending the time, you guys said it, planning your meals, prepping the meals. I had a really busy day the other day. I actually got up early and was able to get dinner put together so that I just had to do a few things, at dinner time. But otherwise, it was almost already. And it just freed my mind. Like I knew we were going to have a good meal later. I knew I didn't have to worry about it and the work had been done. So it took a little work on the front end and having a plan, but ignoring food doesn't mean it goes away. Your body will still say, I'm hungry. Like you can't just ignore it.
Yeah, no, that's true. All right, let's talk a little bit about our downtime. Our intentional rest and meditation is different from seeking comfort or being lazy. Intentional rest is important, so how can we use that in the best way? I like to schedule downtime. I find that my best downtime, and this I did for years and still kind of like to do. So small increments of downtime ever since I had kids almost 30 years ago has been after lunch. I like to have an hour or 2 of downtime. And that was set in stone by having 5 kids who took naps, and I still to this day. Then periodically throughout the year, I also need times of downtime. Like after the holidays and everybody goes back to school, I need a week of downtime. Like that week, whenever it happens, and sometimes it doesn't happen until like the 3rd week of January by the time people all go back to school, but I don't plan big things. I give myself permission to not be that productive. Like I'll lay around and binge watch a show or eat easy meals, not really go anywhere. And I don't think that that's laziness. I think that's downtime. And then I would do the same thing when everybody would go back to school in the fall. It was like, okay, now it's time for me to have some downtime. And it's almost knowing that I'm going to have downtime allows me to get through the times where I don't have downtime.
I do love that. I definitely have to be very intentional with any sort of downtime, or maybe even I have to carve out some downtime on busy days. Again, compartmentalization is key for me here. I try to do just one activity at a time. My phone is probably the biggest hurdle there. And so I kind of set some boundaries for my phone. So I don't check my phone right away in the morning. I make sure I've had a chance to kind of wake up. I start praying about the day. I get ready, drink some coffee, water, spend time with the Lord. Then I look at my phone. And at night, it's not the last thing that I'm gonna see or deal with before I go to sleep. I'm giving it its boundaries. When I'm driving, I'm not gonna check it at stoplights. I'm gonna wait until I get to the next place so that I can just enjoy the drive. I actually did a little Google search about stimuli that comes in through each of our senses and how best to kind of cut down on stimuli so then you feel more restful in between things. And so, like visually, just dimming the lights or focusing on an object, maybe gazing at the sky, that can really bring about rest. With the things that you hear, auditory, lowering the volume, using noise canceling headphones, finding like a calm sound or a quiet space if you need that. With your clothing, wearing clothes, we have no problem doing that. Tactile, I would also say I like to walk barefoot on the grass. Grounding is a whole thing. You can look that up, but it feels restful to me to walk barefoot outside. Our smells, limiting strong smells, using calming scents, and then tastes. Opt for bland foods that are not too sweet, salty, sour, or spicy. Eat slowly and mindfully. And so there are different ways you can even handle what you have to do while adding in just a few things to cut down on stimuli so that then in between activities, you're able to kind of visualize, what am I thinking about what's next? How do I feel about what's next? And then my body will more be able to be engaged and ready to do it well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I'm having an odd relationship with downtime. And I think like what you were just saying is you have to kind of protect your downtime to make sure it's what you really need. Because downtime can be just lack of activity. But for me, an empty mind isn't good. And then I have to protect what's coming in. Like the thoughts, it can easily turn just really inward quickly to self-pity, or I imagine things that aren't true, believing lies about relationships or people or my situation. And so downtime doesn't feel good right now, And so I think protecting it with, like there is a lot of mindless scrolling, or like you said, checking your phone in the morning or checking your phone in the evening, looking at it too much. I don't know. I just think that I need to protect downtime because I've always liked downtime, but I find for the first time ever, I am dealing with boredom. And we've talked about this before. Like I've never been bored. I always find something to do. And I'm really struggling with that now. Like how to, like, what is this about, God? Like, are you trying to tell me something about myself? Like, why can't I be content with doing little? I like being productive. And I don't think it's like I feel better about myself, like I like to have value, I have to produce. It's just I enjoy it. I just have always been high energy. And so downtime feels boring to me. I don't feel lazy. I just feel bored.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard to figure this out right now for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, being more intentional about the living in the moment helps, like enjoying the sunset, enjoying nature, reading a good book, but media and screens really detract from that. And it's hard to manage.
I think because media and screens cause us to compare ourselves to other people, even if they're fictional people. And that can really steal your joy. So,
well, it's just a lot of input. It's just a lot of noise,
right,
coming in to process. Like, what am I going to do with all that?
Well, let's move on to working out. Let's talk about how can we adjust our workouts to help you live with more energy and peace of mind. My biggest thing would be do them in the morning and stop kidding myself that I'll do them later because I won't. Just procrastinating, and this maybe falls more into the pitfall, but procrastinating a workout is not good for my mental health because then it's still weighing on me that I have to do that and preventing me from enjoying the thing right in front of me because I know I still have to do that. And then also a lot of times I just don't do it. So that's not good either.
Yes, with working out, I feel like I could go two different directions here. If I have a lot of activity in my schedule, I might need to do some more calming type of workouts. That might mean that I walk by myself, or it might mean that I do a little more yoga or Pilates or something like that. Sometimes if my activities are too sedentary, then maybe I do need to do like some HIIT workout. I really need to sweat. And so it really just kind of depends on how I'm feeling. And maybe I just need a friend time. I just need like a one-on-one walk with a friend. And that can really be a good workout. And so I think that I could go different directions here, but kind of listening to your body and, your spirit, just how do I feel? What do I need to do? And yes, Marie, prioritizing it because movement really does give us more vitality in life. And there's so many different activities you can choose to do, but doing something will be beneficial.
Yeah, I feel like this area I could talk about more easily in the pitfall category.
Yeah.
I mean, I love going to my workouts because she's making me do things.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to do them. And I always feel great when I leave. But I'm just not motivated right now to do that on my own. Yet I know when I take a walk, I'll feel better. But I still can't push myself to really get out there and do it enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. The classic that we know what we need to do, but we can't make ourselves do it.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like along with the food, the exercise is right there with the food. Like have a plan, change it up however you need to, but have a plan for it and prioritize it.
Yeah. All right, well, let's talk about sleep because that's another physical thing that can affect us along with food and workout. And is there anything you need to do in this area to feel more rested? So, Mindy, I feel like you're our sleep guru on good habits. And Julie, you just seem to be able to sleep. You're like an anomaly. You're the only midlife woman I know that never has a problem sleeping.
Yeah. I do not have problems sleeping. I need to sleep less, I think.
Okay.
This could be in the downfall category.
Yes, that would be in the downfall category.
Oh my goodness. Well, my sleep, I mean, I can't say I'm an expert. All I can say is that I do try to compartmentalize my phone, not having lights or notifications catch my attention when it's dark and when I'm in my room, keeping my room cool, keeping stimuli down, lowering lights, lowering any sort of noise. And then just having a routine, a bedtime routine. Think about getting a toddler ready for bed. Like you kind of need to do the same things in the same order. It really helps create like, okay, like this is my body knows sleep is coming. Let's prepare for it. And it might take a couple of hours, not of a lot of things to do, but just turning down the stimuli in your life, creating a routine that will work for you. So going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time are very helpful.
Yeah, I would say I just need to go to bed earlier because I would like to get up earlier, but I'm getting the right amount of sleep. It's just later in the night than I probably should. Starting to get my days and nights mixed up.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
In this category, something that I have noticed that helps me in busy seasons is not sleeping more, but sometimes getting up earlier and giving myself more time alone to prepare for what's about to happen. Sometimes that actually helps me accomplish things with a lot more peace of mind than had I slept in to the very last second, knowing I was going to be running all day. It just helps me kind of like get my mind ready. How do I feel about it? Put it all into place. And then I'm really ready to kind of take charge of the day.
All right, well, let's get to the pitfalls because I feel like while someone is talking about the good things they do, including myself, I think about my pitfalls, like where I go off track. So going right back to the entertainment and the being intentional about it, my pitfall is that a lot of times I can prioritize and plan entertainment or think about what would genuinely be entertaining for me. But sometimes I use entertainment. My pitfall is to use it just as comfort or distraction. So then I'll just be scrolling or searching through shows, or I'm watching something that I'm not even really enjoying, but I just can't seem to bring myself to turn it off. And I have this vague feeling of guilt. I'm not accomplishing anything. Definitely that does not feel intentionally restful. So entertainment can be almost something that makes me feel worse sometimes, depending on how I'm using it.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's why I said I kind of cut out TV. I usually feel worse unless it's very intentional, like I'm watching through this show that I love. That's okay. But it's
Right.
when I'm just like looking for something and I spend an hour just watching 5 minutes of every show because none of it's working, I just feel worse. So I've learned to just stop that for now and just try to be more content with just being with myself and with the Lord. Like what are you trying to teach me in this? I still don't know, but I'm
But
trying
you're
to hang
open.
in there.
You're
I'm trying
listening.
to hang in there. Yeah.
But you're looking. Well, I put down on our list shopping. Like, this is an easy pitfall to fall into, especially if you start scrolling. Well, you're going to get ads, and then you're going to see something way cute. And you're like, I wonder how those shoes feel. Oh, I bet that would be so adorable on me. And you're either adding the stress of overspending, or you're adding the stress of a day of returns. Or you're adding the stress of a busted out closet full of clothes that you never wear. So I feel like, if there's something you need to shop for, and this is not only just clothes or shoes, but this is decorating your house. You both have grandchildren. I imagine when I have grandchildren, that's going to be a real easy pitfall for me to fall into is, oh my goodness, they would look so cute in this and they would love this toy. And so shopping's definitely in the pitfall category.
Yeah, especially Amazon shopping.
Okay.
Yeah. I was going to say it's so easy to shop now. Like,
Yeah.
you don't even have to get in your car to be wasting time shopping.
I know. And they get you with free returns, but it still takes a lot of time to get it together.
Right.
Yeah. And there's decision fatigue, like, because I'll spend a lot of time doing that and then not buy anything because I'm like, well, do I really need this? Or are these going to be really what they say they are? Or do I need to spend the money? So I go through all that and then it's exhausting and it was a waste of time.
Right.
Right.
Well, in my pitfalls, I had several, like oversleeping, boredom. I'm not understanding why I'm bored, and isolation. And I just thought, weary and heavy laden people aren't always the most pleasant to be around. So I just feel like that's my reason for isolation. That's not a good reason, but that's the easier thing to do. And then right now, what I'm really struggling with is just kind of like giving up. Like I'm trying to do everything I can to just hang in there and do the right thing, like take the next step forward, keep putting one foot in front of the other. When it's tempting to kind of just take the easy way out, like which would be cynicism, self-pity, distance. And trust me, I do that on one day, maybe not the next, but then I struggle with that. But it just doesn't feel good. Like like we want what we do to match our feelings. And so like doing the right thing still doesn't feel good, and I'm waiting for those feelings. I'm trusting, relying on God, trusting, trying not to go into bitterness, and just like my feelings are out of sync with the way I'm living. And so this is the hard part, endurance, just hanging in there in opposition to my feelings. And it's hard not to live by your feelings.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of where I think God has me right now. And part of me wants to just rush through it and say, get me out of here. Like I want to do something, like just what could I do? Anything. I've just got to do something. But I'm trying to resist that because I don't want to come back here. You know what I mean? I want God to kind of deal with my heart and get me through this changed.
Yeah.
It'd be easy to just put a lot of busyness on yourself, Julie, and like false productivity almost, even just to avoid the feeling of boredom, avoid the uncomfortable feelings. But I feel like going through them, moving through them, even if they're a slog, every hour is probably better for you in the long run.
Right. And I think I first noticed this because, I did my fence and I worked on it for 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Then I put down 22 bags of mulch in my flower beds
That's a
with
lot.
help.
Yeah.
My mom helped me. And then, I rearranged some furniture. I've gotten some projects going.
Yeah.
And I was pretty upbeat those days. And then, like, the very next day, I told my mom, I'm just going to go to bed, like in the middle of the day.
Mm.
And she saw it as like, well, wouldn't this be your day to rest? You've done all this activity. And it's like, I can handle zero downtime. Like, normally that would be a welcomed thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're just not happy if you're not busy. And that was kind of the clue of like, oh, you're right. I don't know. And maybe busyness is a distraction for me. I don't know. I don't know that biblical rest always has to mean physical rest.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because like this morning I read Exodus 33:14. It says, "The Lord replied, my presence will go with you and I will give you rest." It didn't say I'll just sit with you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like, I feel good doing things,
Mm-hmm.
but they can't be a distraction. So,
Well, I think we feel good being needed too. And
mhm.
right now you might be at a point in your life where you don't feel needed.
Yeah, I feel like I have no purpose. No
Mm-hmm.
purpose, not anything really meaningful that I'm doing. It does feel kind of like just busyness, you know? So, that's just a weird place to be, like,
Mm-hmm.
wanting to be busy, but then
Mhm.
thinking, no, I need to sit with these feelings. I need to,
Mm-hmm.
and part of it's just, I think rest for me is more about an inward stillness,
Yeah.
not so much an outward, because I think I am just a high energy. I like productivity, not for my
Mm-hmm.
value or worth. I
Right.
just really enjoy it. And so I think that that's the struggle is just not doing things in my own strength and just being continually aware of his presence. And you have to
Yeah.
stop and notice that. Like, there has
Yeah.
to be some inner calm for that.
I saw a couple of these reels recently, and I think like what you're talking about, you're attributing to your grief. And I do think that that's a circumstance that has brought that about. But it's
Mhm.
also reminding me of a couple reels that I've seen of women that have posted after their kids are gone. And they start out their post like, midlife girls, what are we doing? Like, I work all day, I come home, I make a meal, I watch a show, I've got my nails done. But I'm so bored. Like, what are we doing? I miss my kids. I miss,
Mhm.
this part of my life. And I don't know. That's what they sound like, is that they
Yeah.
don't know what their purpose is. And so then you can read
Yeah.
the comments of people suggesting things, but someone else's purpose can't be given to someone else. So like someone can suggest that you do something, but that
Yeah.
might not be the thing that works for you. But just that I'm saying this, I guess, all to say that I don't think that grief it's one of the things that bring this about, but I don't think that you're alone in maybe going through this stage
No.
because they're sharing the same adjectives that you're sharing.
I know. I noticed that kind of that empty nest syndrome or whatever is real, and I didn't think I had ever gone through it, but I think I kind of went through the honeymoon phase of enjoying the freedom and all that
Mhm.
it brought, and then now it's like, I mean, when you think about it, we were all, and Mindy, you still are in there, but we were CEOs of a major family
Right.
business,
Mhm.
with
Right.
lots of activity, and it's just all over. And it's
Mhm.
just like a man who had a full-time career retiring. It's really no different. And so,
Yeah.
and then I think mine is just complicated. It's compounded by grief because
Mhm.
I don't have John to
Share it
walk
with.
to share it with.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a
Well,
double whammy.
it is. And I wasn't planning to share this, but in preparing for this episode, and as I was kind of meditating and trying to focus in on what we should talk about and how to put it for today, I also wrote a whole nother note. And I titled it Seasons of Waiting, Suffering, Discomfort, and Anticipation of Better Days. because I had to separate the two. I confessed to you guys that, I had a couple of things that showed me that Nathan will be a senior in high school next year. And that's coming really fast. And I was really sad about that. And a couple of things brought that to my attention. And I just felt like I was gut punched. And I know it's coming. And my first reaction is, can we just get to the other side? There's all this activity. Can we just, have it over? I just want it to be over and deal with it then. But I have a season of waiting, and of doing until that happens. And there's other things in my life that are uncomfortable. And you can't wish them away. You can't force them to be fixed. They are there. And in their own time, God will provide maybe an answer. And in the daily, he provides himself. And so he allows us to be uncomfortable. I was kind of Googling a little bit after I wrote this long note about the season of waiting, discomfort. And it took me to Lent and, preparing for Easter. And it reminded me that Jesus was in the grave for 3 days. And I was really thinking about what those 3 days might have been like, and not have a savior, to not have hope. And I'm so thankful that he rose again and we have that hope in Jesus Christ. But how appropriate to look at the season of Lent, to look at the season of Easter, and to really commune with God and meditate in Scripture about God being there for us in the uncomfortable, in the suffering, in the waiting, and that there are better days that will come. We have hope.
Yeah, I think that's a good picture of we're constantly awaiting little resurrections. I mean, that's what that's what our faith promises. I mean, ultimately, in eternity, but even I think daily and weekly in our lives. And it's, for me, resting right now just means resisting the urge to do what I want to do and in my own strength. And sometimes I just feel like a pressurized bottle, like I have got to do something to get out of this. I feel very trapped in a life I don't want,
right,
in a place I don't want to be. And I kind of sympathize with people that do kind of crazy things and make weird decisions because they just want to do something to get out of the uncomfortableness. And so I am trying to hang in there in the uncomfortableness, in the bad feelings.
Yeah. We've already kind of opened up this topic, but we have the Bible to help teach us, guide us, convict us, and show us how to find rest. And this is a subject that is not far from Scripture. And if you're a believer, then I'm hoping that you'll hear these things that we can share with you. But the last thing we want to share is just, what does God say in his word about rest? And I'll just start off with Psalm 23. This has been very meaningful to me. I shared several weeks ago about the worship song called Still Waters that's based in Psalm 23. And it describes God leading his people to green pastures and still waters and restoring their souls. And he is our shepherd. And that there's so many applications. I used to see this psalm as one that was just spoken at funerals, but my view and perspective has changed, because as we walk through life, you might be walking through seasons of death in a lot of different ways, but we're still walking, is the point that I want to make, and that God will provide still waters. And so if you meditate on what still waters even look like, then you will understand how the peace in your mind and in your soul and your heart can be at rest as you let God guide you through.
Yeah, I think the gospel, central to the gospel, is death, and not just Christ's death for us, but for us, it means death to ourselves and to our wants, our feelings, our desires, when we're rejected or rebuked or dismissed. I mean, those are a death to dreams. Those are all little deaths that, and that is actually where God meets us. at the end of ourselves and in those little deaths, and then those resurrections are possible only through Him. And so, but yeah, those 3 days must have been long, waiting,
Yeah.
waiting on that resurrection, and we don't know when that will come.
Right. Just a couple other verses I'll just throw out there. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. And then the last verse, so that was Philippians 4, 6, and 7. And then Isaiah 26:3, I'll keep those at perfect peace whose minds are steadfast on me.
Those are both good reminders, Mindy.
Okay, well, let me go ahead and correct myself because I just told you the wrong scripture passage from what I said.
Oh.
So the one I mentioned about the weary and heavy burden, that's a Matthew passage. Okay. So please forgive me. That's Matthew 11:28-30. And then the Philippians 4, 6, and 7 is to present your request to God in prayer, petition, and with thanksgiving, and the peace of God will guard your minds and your hearts in Christ Jesus. So I had to go ahead and correct myself there. Thank you for giving me a chance. And then I'm excited about I'm a fan because I have something that helps me rest as I'm a fan. So I'm hoping you guys.
Good. All right. Well, listeners, why don't you come and find us on Midlife Matters Podcast on Instagram, or you can email us at midlifematterspodcast@gmail.com. Come and share your thoughts on intentional rest, maybe some of your pitfalls. We would love to hear from you. But before we go, we want to move into I'm a Fan. Okay, Mindy, what's your I'm a Fan this week?
I am excited to share 2 spring blooming trees that are beautiful ornamental trees for your garden, for your yard. I have both of these trees in my yard, and they are just bringing so much joy. And when I look at them, I could just gaze at them forever, and I just love them. So I'm going to share those. The first one is a Chinese fringe tree, and it has this beautiful white blossom that covers the entire thing in spring, and mine is blooming right now. And then the second tree is a dappled willow tree. It's more of an ornamental tree than a typical like weeping willow. And so it almost has this, it's got one singular trunk, and then it has almost like a starburst effect. Like, and
that sounds pretty.
It's wild. Like it looks like crazy hair. Almost. It is the coolest tree. So I'm going to send you guys a link to both of these trees. And it just gets this like whiter leaf on it in the spring, and then it turns green. The dappled willow does. So really beautiful to add to your garden or yard.
Yeah. I don't know if I've seen either one of those.
Okay.
Now, did these start small, or are they kind of big to begin with?
Yes, actually they do start small. Let's see. I got one of them at Home Depot, actually, and got one at a garden center. So
yeah,
just depending on how much space you have in your garden and what you're kind of going for in terms of color and size, you can kind of go from there.
Right. All right, Julie, what are you a fan of this week?
Okay, so this may sound contradictory to what I was just talking about, but I did have a show that I finished a couple weeks ago that I watched very intentionally on Prime, and it was The Life of David. Have you guys seen that?
Oh, yes, we've been watching that.
Yeah, It's produced by John Irwin, who I believe lives in our neighborhood. David refers to him as the Irwin brothers. Yeah, it was, and David even has some my David even has some friends that worked on the crew, and they filmed it in, I think they were gone like 6 months in Greece to film it. So it's really beautifully done, like to the level that The Chosen is done, like the cinematography and the casting, it's all really well done. And it follows the life and rise of David so early on, it's like during the time of King Saul, and there's 8 episodes ending with the battle with Goliath. So there's a lot set before it. And, and they tell you that they add some things that aren't scriptural, like aren't in the Bible, just because it's unknown, like things about David's mother or, like other relationships. So, but I didn't find any of that distracting, or detracting from it. And so they said to expect a season 2, picking right up where this one left off. And David just told me the other night that it's the #1 show on Prime.
Oh, that's amazing. How many episodes was it, Julie?
8.
Okay.
And they're it seems like they're around 45 minutes each or something.
Okay. Yeah. I have heard good things about that. So I'll give it a try. You said you're watching it too, Mindy?
Yes. Yeah. We can't wait for the second season to come out. I agree with Julie. It wasn't very distracting. Some of the, storylines that they put together, it was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. It just got us talking about it.
Yeah. I found that interesting.
Well, that's cool. All right, this week I'm a fan of something that might provide you some intentional rest. So we were talking about food and we were talking about how we need some easy on-hand meals. And I know we've talked about the Bobby Approved app. This is not technically Bobby Approved, but it's because it's not organic chicken, which I do want to eat organic meat whenever I can. But if I'm going to eat out, that's probably not organic either. So kind of take your pick. And then it also has yeast extract, which it says is a flavor enhancer. That's apparently on his not approved list. But there was only 2 things. So anyways, I got it. It was at Costco. It's called Kevin's Natural Foods. And it says ready in 5 minutes. And it is their paleo cilantro lime chicken. It's chicken breast strips with a bright chimichurri sauce. And what I liked about it was it's your chicken pre-cooked. Now you do warm it up like in a skillet. And then the sauce, and you get 2 bags of chicken. And I found that each bag is enough for 2 people. And then you get 2 bags of sauce. So it actually can be a convenience item for like Steve and I for 2 different nights. And you just kind of break up the chicken in the skillet and you put the sauce in, and you could put this on, tortillas, or you could put it in a salad, or you could just serve it with, whatever you wanted to. You can put avocado on it, just different ways that you could dress it up. But I found it to be an easy way to get protein in your meal if you hadn't really planned ahead much. So I'll put a link to that in our show notes.
Yeah. I know my daughter likes that.
Does she? Okay.
Yeah. Now, did they sell different varieties of that, like different flavors, or they just carry that one, or what?
I think they only had the cilantro lime chicken, but I think they had other Kevin's meats. So they may have had like some kind of a pot roast or something. Like I think his brand is there in like the fresh meat section. So I just thought, as far as convenience foods go, it's one of the more easy, quick, healthy options I think that you could pick up. And I'm always on the lookout for something like that.
Well, it's good to know it comes in 2 bags too, so you wouldn't have to open it all at once.
Yeah, you definitely don't need to. So even if you lived by yourself, because it says, if you looked at it, it says 2 pounds, 32 ounces. So you might think, oh, well, I'm not going to eat all this. But it's really just 1 pound in each bag. So you could eat one for dinner and 1 for lunch or something.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. Mindy, thanks again for bringing up this topic. I enjoyed talking about it. I'm going to give some thought to my rest this week and try to make it actually restful and not just not just wasting my time.
I know. I'm telling myself, do what you know you need to do.
Work at rest. Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
you gotta work at rest.
Be intentional about
it well.
Okay.
That's right.
All right. We look forward to talking with you next week.
Sounds great.
Okay, bye. We're so happy you joined us today. You can find the show notes for this episode at midlifematterspodcast.com. Also, please tell a friend about the show and help them hit the free subscribe button on their favorite podcast app. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast. That's where we post pictures and stories about all the things we talk about in each episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.